Nara had lived alone for 2 years. She did not mind it. She had her bookshop on the ground floor and her apartment above it and her cat who slept in the window and her regulars who came in every week. It was a small life. It was a good one. Then the apartment next door was rented. She noticed him the way you notice weather, gradually, then all at once. His name was Kael. He had bronze skin and black hair, and eyes the color of old gold. He was tall in the way that certain people are tall not just in height but in presence, as if he occupied more space than his body technically required. He moved in on a Tuesday with almost no belongings. A bag, a few books, that was it. Nara watched from her doorway with her cat in her arms. "Nara, you don't have much." He stopped, he looked at her. His gold eyes were very direct. "Kael, I don't need much." He went inside, she went inside. She told herself that was the end of it. It was not the end of it. Over the following weeks, she noticed things about him, small things, things that individually meant nothing, but together added up to something she could not name. He was always warm, not friendly warm, physically warm. She had shaken his hand once when she gave him a package that had been delivered to her door by mistake, and his skin had been like touching something left in the sun. He never seemed cold, even in winter. She had seen him outside in a light shirt on the coldest morning of the year, and he had looked completely comfortable. He ate an extraordinary amount. She knew this because the walls between their apartments were thin, and she could hear him cooking at hours that suggested he had eaten dinner, and then immediately started cooking again. He could stay very still for a very long time, not the restless stillness of someone trying to be patient, the complete stillness of something that did not experience restlessness at all. And his eyes, the color of them changed slightly depending on the light. In the morning they were darker. In the evening, when the lamp was on in the hallway between their doors, they looked almost like they were lit from inside. She told herself she was imagining things. She was not imagining things. He came into the bookshop 3 weeks after he moved in. She was behind the counter sorting a new delivery when the bell above the door rang. She looked up. He stood in the doorway taking in the shop with those gold eyes, not browsing, just looking, the way you look at something when you want to understand it completely before you begin. Then he came in. He moved through the shelves slowly. He read the spines. He picked up books and opened them and read the first page and put some back and kept others. He had a specific way of holding a book both hands, carefully, as if it was something worth handling with attention. After 20 minutes, he brought 4 books to the counter. All history, very old history, the kind of books that most people picked up, glanced at, and put back. Nara, good choices. Kael, I have been looking for this one for a long time. He held up the oldest of the 4, a history of the northern mountain settlements, printed 200 years ago. She had found it in an estate sale and had not expected anyone to want it. Nara's, you know that period. Kael, reasonably well. He paid, he left. He came back the next week. And the week after that. It became a rhythm. He would come in on Saturday mornings. He would move through the shelves. He would bring books to the counter and they would talk about them. Not small talk, real talk, the kind where you forgot to watch the clock. He knew things she did not expect him to know, historical details so specific they could not have come from books, the way a certain city had smelled in summer 3 centuries ago, the specific sound a particular mountain pass made in winter wind, things you could only know if you had been there. She asked him once where he had grown up. Kael, the north, a long time ago. She waited for more. He did not offer more. She let it go. She had learned that he offered things when he was ready to offer them and not before. She had learned, without quite deciding to wait. She had also learned that she looked forward to Saturday mornings more than she had looked forward to anything in a long time. The list of strange things grew. He healed fast. She knew this because she had seen him cut his hand on a broken window in the corridor, and by the next morning the cut was gone. Not healed, gone, as if it had never been there. He did not sleep normal hours. She heard him moving in his apartment at 3 in the morning, at 4, at 5, not restless, just awake, as if sleep was something he did occasionally rather than necessarily. Animals behaved strangely around him. Her cat, who tolerated nobody, had walked directly to Kael the first time he came into the apartment and sat on his feet. The pigeons on the roof moved away from his window and perched on hers instead. A dog had once crossed the entire street to avoid the pavement he was walking on. He never got sick. That winter when half the street was ill with the same cold, he was fine, more than fine. She had complained about her own cold from the hallway, and he had looked at her with something close to confusion, as if illness was a concept he understood theoretically, but had no personal experience of. He was careful with fire, that was the strangest one. He cooked on the stove the way most people cooked over a campfire, with a kind of personal familiarity, as if fire was something he had an established relationship with. She had once seen him hold his hand over a candle flame for a long moment, not quickly, not by accident, deliberately, and he had not flinched. She brought it up one evening. They were on the small shared landing between their apartment doors, which had become their unofficial talking place, 2 mugs of tea between them. "Nara, can I ask you something strange?" "Kael, you can ask." "Nara, the candle last Tuesday. You held your hand over it for almost 10 seconds. It did not burn you." He looked at his tea. "Kael, I have a high tolerance for heat." "Nara, that is not a complete answer." "Kael, no, it is not." He looked at her, gold eyes in the lamplight, that quality of attention he always had, full and careful, and weighing something she could not see. "Kael, there are things about me that are difficult to explain." "Nara, I know. I have been noticing them for 3 months." Something moved across his face, not alarm, something more like the expression of someone who has been waiting for a moment and is not sure whether it has arrived or not. "Kael, are you afraid?" "Nara, no, I am curious." He was quiet for a long time. "Kael, give me a little more time." "Nara, all right." She gave him more time. She was good at waiting. She was less good at not thinking about it. The fire started at 2 in the morning. Nara woke to the smell of smoke. She was out of bed and into the hallway before she was fully conscious. The building was old. Old buildings and fire were a combination she had always been afraid of. The smoke was coming from the stairwell. She could see the glow from below. She grabbed her cat. She moved toward the window, 3 floors up. The drop was survivable but not pleasant. The door to Kael's apartment opened. He came out and looked at the smoke and looked at her. His gold eyes were very calm, too calm for someone standing in a burning building. "Kael, give me the cat. Get on my back." "Nara, what?" "Kael, there is no time. Get on my back. Hold on." She did not have a better plan. She gave him the cat and climbed onto his back and held on. He went to the window. He opened it. He stepped out onto the ledge. And then something happened that she could not explain and would not stop thinking about for a very long time. The fall was wrong. She had braced for impact. The impact did not come the way it should have. They came down slowly, not falling, something closer to gliding, as if something invisible had caught the air under them and held it. They landed in the street, cleanly, gently. She slid off his back. She held her cat against her chest. She stood in the street in front of her burning building, and she looked at him. He was looking at her, completely still, his gold eyes watching her face with the careful attention of someone waiting for a verdict. The fire brigade arrived. The neighbors came out, the street filled with people and noise and orange light. Neither of them moved from where they were standing. "Nara, how did we get down?" A long pause. "Kael, I will explain, not here, not tonight, but I will explain." She looked at him, bronze skin in the firelight, black hair, gold eyes steady and serious. "Nara, all right." She trusted him. She was not sure when that had happened, but it had. They stayed in a small hotel 2 streets away while the building was assessed. The next morning he knocked on her door. She opened it. He stood in the hallway with 2 cups of coffee and the expression of someone who has made a decision about something significant. "Kael, are you ready?" "Nara, yes." They sat in the small hotel room. He handed her the coffee. He sat in the chair across from the bed. He looked at his hands for a moment. Then he looked at her. "Kael, I am not human." Silence. "Nara, I know." He looked at her. "Nara, I mean, I did not know what you were, but I knew you were not what you appeared to be. I have known for months." "Kael, and you stayed." "Nara, you were not hurting anyone. You were my neighbor. You came to my bookshop and talked about history and carried my heavy deliveries without being asked. Whatever you were not dangerous, not to me." He was quiet for a moment. Kael, I am a dragon. She absorbed that. She looked at him. Bronze skin, black hair, gold eyes, the heat that came off him, the stillness, the fire. It made sense. That was the strangest part. It made complete sense. Nara, how long have you been in this form? Kael, 30 years in this city, longer in others. Nara, wise. He looked at the window. Kael, because I was tired of mountains, because I wanted to understand humans, because every century or so I come down and live among people for a while, and then I go back. Nara, and this time. He looked at her. Kael, this time I found a bookshop, and a woman who talks to her cat and knows the history of the northern mountain settlements and is not afraid of things she cannot explain. She held her coffee cup in both hands. She looked at him. Naras, how old are you? Kael, old enough that the number is not useful. Nara, older than the books in my shop. Kael, most of them, yes. She was quiet for a moment. Nara, the northern mountain settlements, the ones in that book, the specific details you knew, things no book records. Kael, I was there. She sat with that. She had been talking to someone who was there, not as a scholar, not from records, there, alive, watching. Nara, were there other dragons, then? Kael, a few, not many now. Nara, are you the last? A pause. Kael, almost. She heard what was in that word, the weight of it. She did not push further. She filed it away carefully, the way she filed the things that mattered most. Nara, thank you for telling me. Kael's, thank you for not running. Nara, I told you, I am curious, not afraid. He looked at her with those gold eyes, and something in them shifted, something warm, something that had been held back carefully for months and was now slightly less held back. They moved back into the building when it was repaired. Everything was the same, and nothing was the same. She knew what he was now, he knew that she knew, and somehow that made the space between their apartments feel different, not bigger, smaller, like a door that had been closed was now open. She asked him questions, not all at once. She was not that kind of person. She asked them the way she read books slowly, one thing at a time, giving each answer room to settle before she moved to the next. She asked him what it felt like to fly. He thought about it for a long time before he answered. Kael, like the world is the right size. Down here everything is too close together. Up there you can see all of it at once. She asked him what he missed about his real form. Kael, the heat. This form is always slightly cold compared to what I am. Nara, you are the warmest person I have ever touched. Kael, that is the cold version. She stared at him. He said it completely seriously. She laughed. She asked him why he had chosen her building. He was quiet for a moment. Kael, I chose the street. Then I saw the bookshop. Then I saw you through the window, arguing with a shelf that was too tall for you. Nara, that is not a dignified way to be noticed. Kael, you were not trying to be dignified. You were trying to reach a book. I found it more interesting than dignified. She asked him about the other cities, the other times he had come down from the mountains. He told her about a city by the sea 300 years ago, where he had worked as a fisherman for a decade, about a village in the mountains where he had stayed long enough to watch 3 generations of one family grow up and grow old, about the things he had seen that no living person had seen. She listened to all of it. She always listened to all of it. One evening, she asked the question she had been carrying since the hotel room. Nara, when you go back to the mountains, how long before you come down again? He was quiet. Kael, usually a century, sometimes longer. She nodded. She looked at her tea. Nara, and this time, do you know when? Kael, no, not yet. She did not ask what she was actually asking. She was not ready to, and she thought he knew what she was not asking, because he looked at her with those gold eyes for a long time after, with an expression she was still learning to read. It was a small thing that broke it open. She had been sick for 4 days, nothing serious. A winter cold that made her head heavy and her voice rough, and her general disposition toward the world significantly worse than usual. She had closed the bookshop and stayed in her apartment and drank tea and felt sorry for herself in a moderate and reasonable way. On the 3rd day, there was a knock at her door. Kael stood in the hallway with a pot of soup, homemade. She could smell it from the doorway. It smelled like something her grandmother had made once when she was small and sick, and the world was very simple. Nara, you made soup. Kaels, you have not eaten today, I can tell. Nara, how can you tell? Kael, I can smell it. She stared at him. He said it completely plainly, as if this was normal. Nara, you can smell that I have not eaten. Kael, dragons have very good senses. May I come in? She stepped back. He came in. He put the soup on the stove to warm. He moved through her kitchen with the comfortable familiarity of someone who had been there many times, which he had not. He seemed to simply know where things were. She sat at the kitchen table, wrapped in a blanket, and watched him move around her kitchen, and felt something she had been carefully not feeling for months rise up past every management strategy she had deployed against it. He brought her a bowl. He sat across from her. He watched her eat with the quiet attention he gave everything. Nara, you do not have to watch me eat. Kael, I know. I want to make sure you actually eat it. Nara, I am not a child. Kael, no, but you are someone who forgets to take care of herself when she is working. I have observed this. She looked at him. Nara, you have been observing me. Kael, for 8 months, yes. Nara, that is very dragon of you. Kael, we are attentive to things we consider important. The kitchen was quiet, the soup was good. Outside the window, the winter street was gray and cold. Nara, am I important to you? She had not planned to ask that. It came out before she could stop it. He looked at her across the kitchen table, gold eyes, still and warm and completely honest. Kael, yes. One word, no hesitation, no qualification. She put down her spoon. Nara, Kael. Kael, I know what you are going to say. Nara, do you? Kael, you are going to say that you are human and I am not, that I will still be here when you are gone, that loving something that outlives you by centuries is a particular kind of difficult. She was quiet. Nara, is that not true? Kael, all of it is true. Nara, then what do we do with it? He reached across the table and put his hand over hers. His skin was warm, the warmth of the cold version, she thought, the warmth of something vast and ancient choosing to be small and present and here. Kael, I have lived for a very long time. I have watched many things end, and I have learned that the things worth having are always the ones that do not last forever, because forever is easy. Choosing something knowing it ends, that is the difficult thing, the real thing. She turned her hand over and held his. Nara, how long do you think you will stay, this time? He looked at her. Something in his gold eyes was soft in a way she had not seen before. Kael, I think this time I may stay a very long time. She squeezed his hand. He squeezed back. Outside, the window snow had started to fall, the first of the winter. She had always liked snow. She liked it more now. Spring came slowly that year. With it came something she had not expected. He began to show her things. Not his true form, not yet, but other things, the way the world looked through his eyes, the things he had learned in centuries of watching. He took her to the north, not to the mountains, not yet, but to the foothills, to places she had never been that he knew as well as she knew her own bookshop. He showed her a valley that had looked the same for 500 years, a river that had changed course twice in his lifetime, a hill that had once been a fort and was now just a hill with certain stones positioned in a way that only made sense if you knew what had stood there. He showed her how to read a landscape the way he read it, not for what it was now but for what it had been. Every field a former forest, every road a former path, every city a former nothing, then something else. She had always loved history from books. This was different. This was history with someone who had been inside it. Nara, what was this valley, originally? Kael, farmland, before that forest, before that sea floor. Nara, you remember when it was sea floor. Kael, vaguely, I was young. She looked at him, the idea of him young. What did young mean for a creature like him? Nara, what was you like when you were young? He thought about it. Kael, larger, less patient. I did not understand yet why small things mattered. Nara, and now. Kael, now I think small things are the only things that matter. The large ones take care of themselves. She leaned into his side. He put his arm around her. They stood on the hill above the ancient valley, and she thought about centuries and sea floors and the specific warmth of something very old choosing to be very present. She asked him the question she had been building toward for weeks. Nara, will you show me, someday, what you actually are? He was quiet for a moment. Kael, yes, when you are ready. Nara, how will you know when I am ready? Kael, you will ask again without the word someday. She thought about that. Nara, will you show me? He looked at her, gold eyes warm. Kael, not today, but soon. She smiled, he almost smiled back. Almost, she was working on that. He took her to the mountains on a morning in early summer. Not the foothills this time, the actual mountains, high enough that the air tasted different, high enough that the city below was a suggestion rather than a fact. They stood on a wide, flat ledge of gray stone. The sky was enormous. The wind moved through everything. He turned to her. Kael, step back, give me room. She stepped back. She had thought she was prepared. She had thought about it for months. She had read everything she could find about dragons, which was mostly mythology and legend, and the specific unreliability of stories told by people who had seen something they could not explain. She was not prepared. The change was not violent. It was not painful to watch. It was simply enormous. He grew the way a shadow grows when the light changes gradually and then suddenly, each moment of it inevitable. The bronze skin, the black hair, the gold eyes, all of it remained, just multiplied into something that took up the actual sky. He was black, not dark brown, not dark gray, black like the space between stars, with scales that caught the light and scattered it in ways that did not follow normal physics. His eyes, when he turned his head toward her, were the same gold, the same expression in them, the same patient attention. The same Kael. Just the true version. She stood on the ledge and looked at him for a very long time. The wind moved his wings slightly. The sun was somewhere behind clouds. The mountains were very quiet. She walked toward him. She put her hand on his side. The scales were warm, the warmth of a forge, the warmth of a summer road, the warmth of the true thing rather than the contained version. He was very still. She said, Nara's hello. A sound came from him, low and deep and felt in the chest rather than heard. Not words, but she understood it anyway. Hello. She stood with her hand on his side for a long time. She was not afraid. She had known she would not be afraid. What she had not known was that she would feel this specific feeling of rightness, of something making complete sense. Of course, this was what he was. When he came back to his human form, he stood in front of her on the ledge and looked at her face carefully. Kael, are you all right? Nara, I am more than all right. Kael, you are not afraid. Nara, I told you from the beginning, curious, not afraid. He looked at her with those gold eyes. Something in them was very open, more open than she had ever seen him. Kael, nobody has ever done that, what you just did. Nara walked up to you. Kael said hello. She looked at him. Nara, well, it seemed polite. He laughed, a real laugh, full and warm and completely unguarded. She had been working on that for months. It was worth the wait. She kissed him, he kissed her back. The mountains were very still around them. The sky was enormous. It was enough. She reopened the bookshop in spring. He helped her carry boxes. He reorganized the history section without being asked, which she objected to and then accepted because he was right about all of it. He came in every Saturday morning, not as a customer now. He made the coffee and sat behind the counter and read while she worked. He had very strong opinions about the organization of the shelves. She had equally strong opinions. They argued about it with the specific enjoyment of two people who like arguing with each other. The regulars noticed him. Of course they did. He was not easy to miss. Old Mr. Heron, who came in every week for history books, told Nara privately that her young man had an extraordinary grasp of detail for someone his age. Nara, he does a lot of reading. This was true. She did not add the other reasons. He told her things about the books she sold, not what was written in them, what was true, the gaps between the records, the things that had been forgotten, the small corrections that could only come from someone who had been present. She started a journal, not for publication, for herself, things he told her that she did not want to lose. He found it one evening and read a few pages and looked at her with an expression she had come to know well, the expression of someone who keeps being surprised by her. Kael, you are recording this. Nara, you are the only living source for most of it. Someone should write it down. Kael, I have been alive for a very long time, and no one has ever thought to do that. Nara, that is because nobody else knew. He looked at her for a long moment. Kael, it matters to you that it is recorded. Nara, you matter to me, the same thing. He set the journal down carefully. He crossed the bookshop. He took her face in both hands, warm hands, always warm, the warmth she had come to know better than any other warmth in her life. Kael, I have come down from the mountains many times. I have lived in many cities. I have watched many things. Nara ends. Kael, and I have never once found a reason to stay. She looked at him. Nara, until now. Kael, until now. She kissed him. He held her with the careful thoroughness of something that does not do things halfway. Outside the bookshop window, the street went about its ordinary business. People walking, a dog in a doorway, Saturday morning light. Inside, in the history section that they would never fully agree on, two people stood among the books. One of them had lived through most of the history on the shelves. The other one was writing down the parts that had been missed. It was, all things considered, a very good arrangement. The journal filled up faster than she expected. 3 volumes in the first year, 5 by the end of the second, not because she rushed, because he had a great deal to say once he started saying it. 300 years of watching became, in the right company, 300 years of stories. She read parts of it back to him sometimes, in the evenings on the landing between their doors, the place that had always been theirs. He listened with the attention he gave everything and occasionally corrected a detail, and once, on a winter evening in the 3rd year, sat very still for a long time after she read a particular passage. Nara, what is it? Kael, that was exactly right. I had forgotten how it felt. You put it back. She looked at him. Nara, that is the point of writing things down. He looked at her in the lamplight, gold eyes, the same gold eyes she had noticed in the hallway the day he moved in with almost no belongings and the simplest answer she had ever heard. I do not need much. She had thought that was strange then. She understood it now. He had been waiting to find the one thing worth knighting. Kael's Nara. Nara, yes. Kael, I am glad I chose this street. She leaned her head on his shoulder. He put his arm around her. The lamplight was warm. The street outside was quiet. Nara, I am glad you saw me arguing with the shelf. He almost smiled. She had long since stopped working on that. He smiled when he smiled, and when he did it was worth waiting for. Tonight he smiled. She filed that away carefully, the way she filed everything that mattered most.